Hey guys, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. So here I am for my May progress report. I'm going to take you through what I thought of all of the pens and inks that I used for the month of May, and then I'll take you through a little progress update report on my collection, what I've acquired, what I've sold, etc., etc. All right, let's get started. The first pen in my May currently inked was my Tailored Penco Honeycomb in the Honey Melamel with a fine Yovo nib, and this is inked with Tachia Ume Murasaki. The sample was actually sent to me by Miss Marilyn Darling, and I loved it so much that I bought another 4 ml sample. The ink is absolutely stunning. It matched perfectly with the pen, and this flows beautifully and smoothly from this fine nib. So I gave the ink a 10, the flow a 10, and I gave the comfort level of the pen an 8 because the step between the grip and the body is just a little bit high for my comfort level. I'm getting really picky with where that step is on the pen and how much of a difference between the grip section and the body there is. So I'm going to show you here really quickly how that step looks on this pen so you can see the difference there. But otherwise, great combination, beautiful pen. The second pen that I had inked up was my Sailor Pro Gear in white rose gold, and this was inked with Sailor Ink Studio 237. It's a very pretty ink, but not one that I really reached for that often. So I gave the ink itself a 9 because it's very pretty, but wasn't one that I really reached for. The flow was average, not dry, but just average, so I gave it an 8. And then it's got a really smooth writing experience with feedback because that's what sailors are known for, smooth, but feedback, meaning that you can feel the contact between the nib and the paper. The comfort level of the pen I gave an 8 because this is the size of Sailor Pro Gear that I prefer. The Pro Gear Slim is too small, and this is actually pretty good for me to write for slightly longer sessions. The third pen and ink pairing was the Pelikan M400 White Tortoise with an extra fine nib, and this was inked with Ferris Wheel Press, Queen, and Castle, and this was an unexpected favorite. I really liked these two together. This was a fantastically gorgeous ink with a rose gold shimmer, and the flow was outstanding. I gave the ink a 10 and the flow a 10 because the shimmer didn't actually clog up the nib at all. It worked really, really well in this, and it was very smooth coming out of the extra fine nib on the Pelikan. The M400 though, I gave a comfort level of a 7 because it's almost too small for longer writing sessions, and I'm still undecided about what to do with this pen long term. Do I keep it? Do I sell it? I don't know, but it's still so pretty. The fourth pen inked for May was my Laban Rosa, and this was inked with Birmingham Penco Arugula. So my Laban Rosa Lilac has a medium Bach nib, so it's very wet to begin with, and paired with this very wet ink, I gave the ink an 8 and the flow an 8 because the flow was almost just too much. You can see the feathering on the page here. I mean, it's fine when I used it on the Rhodia paper for transcribing, but on Tomoe River paper, the feathering was just awful and would be better in an extra fine nib. But this pen is lovely to write with though for longer sessions, so I gave the comfort level a 9. It's just unfortunate about the ink itself, but such a pretty pen. The next pen is my Hogtown pens on the edge of Oopsie, and this has an extra fine Yovo nib, and the ink in it is Pilot Iroshizuku Sui Gyoku, and this was actually the pen and ink pairing that I used in my A6 5-year journal. I gave the ink an 8 because it is a very pretty teal green, but it's not a color that I normally go for. The flow is perfect out of this extra fine nib, so it's just, for me, perfect flow is about a 7 on the wetness scale, with 1 being dry and 10 being a fire hose. So this was the perfect flow for me, especially in an extra fine nib. And this pen is a comfortable length, width, and weight, and great for longer sessions. So I gave the comfort level a 10. Beautiful pairing with this pen and ink. The next pen is my F3 pens in the Moonlit Rodden with a fine Yovo nib, and this is inked with Sailor Tinterias Agave. I love this ink. I gave the ink a 10 because I love this smoky gray blue color. Not a lot of people like it, but I really love it and thought it was a perfect match for this pen. And this has the perfect wetness, perfect flow out of the fine nib. And this fine nib is actually perfectly smooth. Love that. The thing is, I gave the comfort level of the pen a 7 because the step from the grip to the body is uncomfortable. It's just slightly too girthy in terms of the body. Unfortunate, but I still loved this pairing. Such a great pen and ink pairing. And then the last pen is my On a Whim Woodworks in the Cool Tone Primary Manipulation. This came with a medium Bach nib, but I actually put in an extra fine Bach nib, which was sold to me by Kirk Spear of Pen Realm. And the ink in here is Tachiya Naka Murasake, again given to me by Miss Marilyn Darling. And I gave the ink a 10 because it's such a gorgeous purple color. The flow was perfect, especially with an extra fine Bach nib. And this Bach nib was so beautifully juicy and smooth. And then I gave the pen itself a 9 for comfort because it just feels cool in the hand. And it was just very, very comfortable to write with. So a beautiful pairing, beautiful experience. So those were my pens and inks for the month of May, and it's hard for me to decide which one was my favorite. I mean, if I'm going by my scores, the highest scoring one was the On a Whim Woodworks Cool Tone Primary Manipulation, and I love the combination of the ink with this pen. It's just perfect, but I love them all for all different reasons. So it's hard to pick a favorite. Like, that is probably my favorite ink, and this is a close second in terms of ink, but I don't know. What do you guys think in terms of, and then, I mean, this one as well. The Queen and Castle was actually a really fun ink to use, and I don't think it would have worked as well in any other pen. And then, you know, I love my Le Bon Rosa, but this ink just made it not a pleasure to write with. So really, the combination of the ink and the pen is so important, because a pen that I love put with an ink that I don't really love affects the overall experience. So I really like doing this progress report because it helps me figure out what I like, what I don't like, but also it's that experimentation that I think is also so fun in this hobby. So now let's move on to my update for my pens and inks for May. So to start with, for the pens that I have acquired in the month of May. So for the pens update, I purchased one pen. I'm actually pretty proud of that. I only purchased one pen, and this was from the Zodiac Pen Company in the Water Lily Koi. I haven't received it yet because I just purchased it a few days ago, and it still has to go to Jack Hernandez for nib grinding, so I won't see that until June. And then I received 3 pens, the Pilot Custom 743, the Pilot E95S, and then the Esterbrook SD in the Petrified Forest. There's a difference for me between what I've purchased versus what I've received, because I could have purchased something months in advance and then only receiving it this month. So I do differentiate between what I've purchased versus what I've received. The second part is inks. So what I have acquired in terms of inks for the month of May. And for the month of May, I'm just checking what I wrote because I cannot remember. Yes, I purchased 1 ink bottle for the month of May. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I did say I was not going to purchase any ink bottles, but it's Teranishi Opera Rose. I had to. And then I sold 6 ink bottles, cannot speak today. 6 ink bottles. Sailor Manyo Haha, Sailor Manyo Nekuyanagi, Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki, Diamine Iridescent Robert, Sailor Ink Studio 162, and the Visconti Orange. I felt it was important for me to pass these on to other people who would use them. And I sold it for, I guess, a relatively good price. They were basically sold just to be sold quickly, and it felt really great to be able to move some ink bottles out of my collection. And then I purchased 1 ink sample. It was the Teranishi Innocent Mauve. I haven't swatched this yet, so I'm really excited to be able to actually use this in June. And then for the ink samples that I used or gave away, there were 7 in total. First, I used up all of the Tachiya Ume Murasaki, all of the Tachia Naka Murasaki, the Birmingham Pen Co. Arugula, Ferris Wheel Press Queen and Castle, which I didn't think I would like, but I really loved that one. As you can hear from my earlier review of it, I used up Pilot Iroshizuku Ajisai, and actually that is incorrect. Is it Ajisai? It was Ajisai that I used. And then Ferris Wheel Press Moss Park Green and Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi. So those were the 7 ink samples I ended up using or giving away for the month of May. So for the overall totals, now I keep track of this on a spreadsheet. Of course I keep track of it on a spreadsheet. So the total number of pens that I have is actually 31, which includes 2 on the way. So currently I have 29 in hand, 2 more are on the way, which is an increase of 1 pen from the month of April. And then for my ink bottles, I had to calculate this and count this again. So at the end of April, I had 41. And then for the month of May, I have 36. So I decreased by 5. And then here I wrote that I had 59 ink samples, but this number was incorrect. All right, so there's my overall progress or update for pens and inks for the month of May. The ink samples was a little weird one because when I look at my number at the end of April, I had purchased 10 ink samples from Van Ness, but I hadn't received them yet. So I didn't actually include them in my count here. So the count here should have been 61, but then here I have 59. So my count is wrong somewhere. I'm gonna just double check. And I have now double checked and this number is wrong. I've counted all the ink samples that I currently have and it's actually at 55. So I am actually down, if I had 61 at the end of April, then I am down 6 ink samples, which makes sense because I used 7 and then bought 1. Okay, now I think my math is where it should be. All right, I really like doing this update because it gives me an idea of what I've purchased. Like April was a big purchase month and May was a big receiving month. Because when I say purchased, I mean purchased, but most of the time it takes time for the pen to be sent to me. So anyway, I hope this is helpful for you in terms of, you know, keeping track of your pens acquired, given away, inks given away and acquired, etc. Or you just like to hear me ramble about what I've acquired. But that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. So for the month of June, it's going to be slightly different. I'm not going to have your typical currently inked. I'm actually going to be participating in 30 Inks 30 Days. And I'm going to film it slightly differently. I won't be filming it as a daily progression or a daily video. I'm actually going to be filming it. I'll do these as 3 separate videos. So I'll do 4 separate videos. I'll do days 1 through 7 and then 8 through 15 and then 16 through 23, I think, and then 24 through 30, so that there will be 4 separate videos. And I will be keeping track of it in here. I will also be doing some transcribing and I will be journaling in my Hobonichi Cousin as well. So I'm really looking forward to that and a way to get through some of these ink samples because I have a lot. But that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day.